What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Stone Brewing Company, and they are out of both Escondido, California and Richmond, Virginia, and this is their RuinTen Triple IPA, and this is the 2022 release. So they are obviously calling this one a Triple IPA. It comes in at 10.8% alcohol by volume, 110 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just over 5 weeks old. So typically with Stone, they have story time, and they used to release a lot of their beers in 22-ounce bombers so they could, put down 18 paragraphs on their labels. 12-ounce can means just a paragraph or so, and I'm going to read it because it needs to be read. So it says, you voted, we brewed. Back, I think it was in 2021, they wanted people to vote on some old recipes to bring back in 2022. This was one of them. It says, brewed in 2012 to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the first full-time brewed and bottled West Coast-style Double IPA on the planet, Stone Ruination IPA. It was a thrill to pay homage to a beer already well known for its off-the-charts levels of bitter hoppiness by amping it up even further, and our brewers rose to that challenge. Now, 10 years later, fans are still clamoring for this beautifully bitter beer. So in honor of those who voted to bring this 10.8% monster back, may this stage dive into a mosh pit of hops be every bit as gloriously ruinous as ever. So it's a Stone spiel, but basically, I think it was 2002, Stone Ruination IPA came out, Double IPA. 2012, they wanted to pay homage to it. They released this, and now they brought it back 10 years later. So it's the 20th anniversary of Stone Ruination, 10th anniversary of this beer. Now, full disclosure, I had the 2012 release of this, and guess what? I hated it. Why? Because at that point, I was about 2.5 years or so into drinking craft beer, and my palate did not come around to IPAs until about a year or two later. So I did not like this. Too bitter for me, just too big, just not for me. Now, here in 2022, my palate clamors for stuff like this. So I feel like I'm going to really enjoy it, and I know a lot of people who enjoyed this one back in 2012 have had this one and enjoyed it now. So I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. So we'll see. Anyway, pour it out here into the Lost to Have Me Tiku, because why not? Don't have a stone glass. Never did grab a stone glass, honestly. Holy shit. So when people talk about like old school West Coast IPAs or triple IPAs, the beers look like this. This is, I don't know how it's going to come off on camera, but in person, it has this really nice, deep, like orange, almost slightly red, like tin color. That's what that looks like. It's has a nice clarity, a little bit of chill haze, but it just looks like one of those old school big double/triple IPAs. Has about a 2-finger, just over 2-finger of this. Yeah, that's a straight khaki colored head, maybe even like just straight up tan. Kind of soap sudsy looking head to it, but yeah, that looks like an old school triple IPA, 10.8% for sure. Now, hops are using in this Magnum, Centennial, and Citra, so 3 old school hops. Yeah. It smells like 2012 beer-wise. There's a big like caramel malt thing going on, breadiness, but then there's resinous pine. There's just a hop resin in general. There's bitter grapefruit, maybe a little bit of like a pineapple going on. Almost like a spicy kind of hop component too, like an earthy spiciness. Kind of almost reminds me of like a noble hop, a little bit of spiciness going on. It just smells so old school, which it is. Here's the thing though, I'll be honest with you. It doesn't smell like, a lot of times I'll go back and drink these beers that I didn't enjoy when I first, started drinking craft beer. And back then they wrecked my palate. They tore it apart. They punched it. I got, knocked out in the first round in 10 seconds. Now when I come back to these and drinking as many beers as I have since late 2009, it's one of those things where this does not, I found that a beer like this 10 years ago overwhelmed my palate. Now just smelling it, it's just like, it's nice. It's not too intense. It's not too over the top. It's not too much for me, and I love that. It smells really good. It smells like an old school double, triple IPA. You get the malt character, you get the hop character, nuances. It definitely seems like it's going to have a nice bitterness to it, but a big sweetness up front from the malt. Smells awesome. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. And I guess happy anniversary to RuinTen and Ruination. Yep. Listen, if if you're somebody who enjoyed, old school West Coast-style double IPAs and triple IPAs, if you enjoy that big gripping bitterness, the grapefruit, just the pine resin, this beer is brewed for you. This is the beer that is brewed for you. And for me, yeah, it's kind of brewed for me now at this point too. Biting this one 10.8%. It's like higher side of medium, lower side of full. It maybe doesn't approach something that you would think is 11%, but I don't feel like it's thin or anything. I think it's appropriate. It's a bigger bodied triple IPA, and it's fine. And the mouthfeel, it's old school. It's effervescent. It's spritzy. It has a lot of carbonation. It has a smoothness to it, but it's not in the same realm of like New England style triple IPA nowadays, where it's creamy and smooth and soft and everything. Not overly carbonated, but appropriately carbonated. Yeah, so body and mouthfeel are exactly what they're probably going for. The taste, I'm not saying here BS you. This is really good. And you can probably tell the smile on my face is that, like I said, when I had this back, when they released it in 2012, it was just, I was so disappointed because to me, it's one of those beers that, people are like, oh man, I love that they're doing a huge triple IPA version of Ruination, and that, I love Ruination. And I was just like, I just don't like IPAs. But I gave it a try. It just wasn't for me. So the fact that here we are 10 years later, and I'm really enjoying this one, makes me extremely happy. Extremely happy. Anyway, let's go taste. Right front, there's a nice, like, bready, slightly caramel malt sweetness. Not like too overpowering. Noticeable at the front of the palate. As it passes through halfway through, it's just waves of different hop characters. There's zesty grapefruit. There's a sweeter orange. There's a nice pineapple. But then fucking resinous pine running wild like Hulkamania in the 80s. How many times can I make that reference? As many times as I want. But it hits and it just grips your palate. It just like takes hold of your palate. It's like, we're here to stay. So it's pine resin. There's an earthy, like herbaceous, like spiciness. And that finish on the back of the palate, this finish is semi to full on dry. This is a full bitterness. This is a big bitter beer on the back of the palate. And it definitely leans bitter. So a lot of times I'll go, oh, that beer is mild to moderately bitter, but it balances. This does not, it's balanced to a degree, but if you don't like big bitter IPAs, this isn't for you. This is for people who enjoy. They mentioned bitter multiple times on the label for a reason. 10.8%. Look, I can tell you this is a big triple IPA. I can. Alcohol-wise, I can't. There's a little warming in the chest. There's nothing on the palate. Maybe that dryness, kind of bitterness is, coming from the alcohol a little bit. But like, this is not boozy on my palate. Now, for some of you, it might be. If you're not accustomed to drinking triple IPAs at 10.5 to 11%, and you're somebody who just like, I like 7% IPAs or 8% double IPAs, you might drink this and be like, oh, it overwhelms my palate. For me, it doesn't. Do I know it's a big beer? I would guess this is at least like 9.5, 10% if I was doing it blind. I wouldn't guess almost 11 because it doesn't drink like that. 110 IBUs. I mention IBUs at the beginning of every single review I do. Why? Because I just feel like it's pertinent information, just like the ABV. But the reality is, the IBU doesn't typically do a great job of identifying what is a bitter beer. I've had 90 IBU beers that drink like they're 29, and I've had 30 IBU beers drink like they're 150. All depends on the balance between the malts, the hops, how they're used, the whole nine. This one though drinks like 110 IBUs. This drinks like a big IBU beer. You know what I mean? Like it's bitter. It is, but it's just really well made. Do I love this beer? I do not. And I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and be like, oh, you know what? It's 10 years later and I just love this beer. But I really enjoy it. This is a beer that, 10 years ago, I wouldn't even pass it on my grading scale because I couldn't finish it and I didn't enjoy it. Now, it's going to get a really fucking high score, but it's not going to get crazy high. Pretty high, though. So, to recap, this is really well done. It's a really bitter, big, brash, just intense beer. What they're going for. Hides the alcohol well. It's old school through and through, and I appreciate it. So, Stone RuinTen Triple IPA, the 2022 release. My friends, I'm going to give that a straight 4.25 out of 5. This is really fucking good. Now, I'd imagine there's people out there who, are giving this really high ratings or enjoying it thoroughly, and then there's people, especially if you're somebody who just got into craft beer, say, in the last 5 years, and you love New England style IPAs, and that's your jam. I can imagine you drinking this one and being like, that's gross. But, it's all now in the beholder. This is something I didn't like 10 years ago, and now not only do I like it, I'm going to drink the rest of this and enjoy every sip, and I'm going to actually sip on it. I could probably chug that, but I don't want to, one of those things. Price and availability, price point, I believe in my area, I paid just over $3 for that can. I think they're $18 a six-pack. listen, we're at the point where we're buying New England-style triple IPAs for $24, $25 at some places for a 4-pack. You're getting, in a 6-pack of 12-ounce cans, you're getting 8 more ounces than a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans. And this is anywhere between $2 to, say, $6 or $7 less than a 4-pack of a big triple IPA. So I think price point for $3 a can, it's almost 11%. It's a big beer. So that's a fine price point. And availability, I'd imagine wherever you see Stone, and Stone gets distro all over the world now. If you see Stone, you should be able to get this one. Although distro, for a lot of the bigger craft breweries, have been hit or miss. A lot of people mention Lagunitas. They don't get a lot of their stuff. We sometimes don't see some of their, seasonal specialty releases. So maybe you don't see this one, but I feel like if you do get Stone regularly, you probably have seen this one already. Again, I'm going to be posting this one probably around, I think this was canned on April 20th, 4/20. They give a best by date of like the middle of August. So if you see this one in June or July, give it a go. Like as long as it's been handled properly, this will probably last for another couple months. It's fucking dynamite for what it is, honestly. It's really good. And 4.25 out of 5 would dictate that I think it's very, very good. Anyway, if you've had this one before, post in the comments section. I know a lot of you have. So let me know what you think about it. And I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the PaTroll. To the next one. Cheers.